करचरणजं वाक् कायजं कर्मजं वा श्रवणनयनजं वा मानसं वापराधं विहितं विहितं वा सर्वमेतत् क्षमस्व जय जय करुणाब्धे श्रीमहादेव शम्भो श्रीमहादेव शम्भो श्रीमहादेव शम्भो।
Dhanyavad. Thank you so much, Abhaji, for your blissful blessings to this conference, to begin with, for taking newer heights. In the last few words, we have expressed our feelings that by any act of omission or commission, in our understanding, by our speech, in learning, in our vision, in our hearing, if we are making any mistakes, please be kind-hearted and forgive all of us. And for us, equal to, as Mahadev, she has rightly mentioned, you are all our Atithi Devo Bhava, so you are all God to us. Tujhme Rab dikhta hai yaro. So as we start with, just, there is one beautiful phrase which I want to slightly modify and say that, Jethe jato tethe tu माझा सांगाती, बोलेविषयी हाती धरोनिया, असा जो आपणा सर्वांचा परम सखा परम मित्र भ्रमण ध्वनी, that is your mobile phone. I'll be very happy if you keep it on a silent mode by choice. Or under special, if you're really happy and if you're really contented, you can switch it off. That will be much better. I appreciate that. I think we don't have to repeat this announcement again and again. Should I give a signal and make it quite clear? Because this is going to be standing instruction for all our entire sessions. Just I'm standing so it is quite clear to everybody. This is mobile. I'm giving 30 seconds for you to switch it off. And I'll start with myself. Charity begins at home. Done? Okay, thank you. It's indeed a pleasure and privilege to welcome you all over here for such a beautiful venue. The fragrance of love, affection, all mesmerizing environment around. At this juncture, may I humbly request Sri Gajanan Kirkarji, our convener and research director and managing trustee of Manashakti, to welcome you all.
Good morning, Namaste, and Hari Om to all. I welcome you personally myself and on behalf of Manashakti to the first international conference on prenatal development in India and in Asia too. The theme, as you know, is the ancient wisdom and modern science of prenatal development, building a new healthy world from the womb. Now, the prenatal development in English, in India, we call it as Garbha Sanskar. Garbha means the baby in the womb, and Sanskar is a process of purification. You improve the quality of the baby in the womb qualitatively. Physical improvement will be a byproduct. So, Garbha Sanskar, in Western world, I find there is no equivalence of Garbha Sanskar. They call it as prenatal development, stimulation, education. But Sanskar is something different. So it's a process of purification by multiplying the virtues and reducing the vices. So that is called as Garbha Sanskar. Now this particular concept of Garbha Sanskar was initiated in India after a long time by Swami Vijnanananda, who is the founder of this particular ashram, in 1960s. And at that time, there were no means to measure what the baby is doing in the womb. There were no ultrasound machines, nothing. So he had a vision about the Garbha Sanskar experiment. He said, because of this particular experiment, 3 generations in the society will be changed. That was his vision. And now we visualize his vision, that how important are the sanskars are. So, because of this Garbha Sanskar, the would-be parents, they have to change themselves in a positive way. So, one generation is changed, their baby is also changed, and because of this thing, their earlier generation, that is their parents, they also get changed. So, there is a harmony in 3 generations because of this particular process of Garbha Sanskar. Now, as the advances occurred, research occurred in this particular area, particularly in last 10-15 years. Now we get to know what the baby is doing in the womb. We look at the 4D scans, we look at the videos, and we have much more awareness about the psychology, the biology of the baby. So now you are here, and I hope that you enjoy this beautiful environment here. And in the morning time, you can you can visit the meditation Shakti Shanti Sthal, called as Meditation Center. You can be there, experience Swamiji there, and I'm sure that you will be filled up with the joy and energy. So this is a work for building a humanity, not only a nation, but building a humanity. So I once again welcome you here again. I find many dignitaries here. To mention a few, I find Dr. Thomas Verney from Canada and USA, and Dr. Rajesh Kotejaji is the secretary to Ayush, Dr. Vijay Parker. So many dignitaries are here, and you will be introduced one after another. And I welcome all of the people. There are about 9 countries, this being the international conference, first of its kind. 9 countries representatives have come here, so I welcome them all. They have come from all the way from US, Canada, Brazil, Netherlands, UK. Even Turkey is also expected now. So all over about, you can see the flags. We have displayed a flag as a selfie point for you. You can have a memories of this particular international event. And there are so many scenic points here also. Pardon? China, yeah, it's one from China. I was happy to know that in China this movement is taking place now. So this becomes, the Garbha Sanskar becomes a global event with this particular occasion, and I loved it all. From India, 15 states have representation in here in this conference. 15 states out of say 31 states. So this is a very good sign. A lot of awareness slowly is getting generated. Few years back it was in Maharashtra, maybe in Karnataka or in parts of Gujarat. But now I find from the 15 states the delegates have come here. So there is an overall representation of whole India, practically half the India we can say. And 9 countries they are participating. You will see that there are various aspects being covered in this particular conference. From where does the baby comes? That is hard to answer this question. But we have one topic on reincarnation. Dr. Satwan Pasricha, she has come here. She has worked on this particular topic in a scientific way. And the theoretical basis also we will be having. So there are different aspects of this particular birthing process, going into the roots to this particular thing. Why does the baby takes birth? We begin with that. Why he wants to take birth at all? And why he takes birth into specific family also. So these sort of basic questions, probably if you raise in your mind, they will be answered. I don't want to take much of time. I would like to welcome you once again and wish you a happy stay in Lonavala. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm really indeed happy to see all of you here. And now, since we have already started, we are taking this session with the first very interesting topic, that is the scientific basis of pre- and perinatal psychology. The speaker for this session is international acclaimed academician, scholar, Dr. Thomas Verney. Dr. Thomas Verney, it is indeed my pleasure and privilege to give a brief introduction of this highly intellectual personality. Thomas Verney is a psychiatrist, writer, and academician. He has previously taught at Harvard University, University of Toronto, York University, Toronto, St. Mary's University, and so many international acclaimed institutions. In 1981, he wrote his second book, The Secret Life of Unborn Child, which has become an international bestseller published in 27 countries. The Secret Life has changed the pregnancy and childbirth experience for millions of mothers and fathers too. In 1983, when he founded a Pre- and Perinatal Psychology Association for North America and served as its president for 8 years. In 1986, he launched the Association of Journal, which he edited from its inception until 1990, and in 2013, he became once again editor-in-chief of the Journal of JOPPPAH. In fact, there are so many things, I don't know what to say and what not to say. So I'm editing for you with your kind permission, sir. He edited, in addition to 8 books, when he's author and co-author for more than 50 scientific papers and articles. When his books, professional publications, and founding of PPPANA and Pre- and Perinatal Journal have established him as one of the world's leading authorities on the effect of perinatal and postnatal environment on personality development. In 2004, Mothering magazine, in recognition of Verney's contribution to the field of parenting and child rearing, named him one of their living treasures. In 2005, Santa Barbara's Graduate Institution bestowed on Verney's Doctorate of Humane Letters. So with these few words, with your kind permission, sir, I know I have edited a lot of things, but I'm sure when he speaks, you'll be all mesmerized. With these few words, I hand over this podium to sir. Technical.
Oh, test it. Okay, I'm testing. Thank you. Thank you so much.
On behalf of all of this,
Thank you.
welcome, sir.
Thank you. This is all mine now.
The floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you. It's not moving. Oh, okay. Good morning. I just want to say that it is truly a great honor and a privilege for me to spend some time with such an enthusiastic, interested, and may I say, spiritual congregation. My wife and I only arrived yesterday, but we have been very impressed by what you're doing here. And I hope that from here it goes further and further out into the world, and perhaps one of these days it might even come to Canada. So I would like to speak today about the scientific basis of pre- and perinatal psychology. And so, okay, it's jumping, sorry. Okay, why is it not up there? There we go. So first of all, what is pre- and perinatal psychology? It's a large subject, but I shall try to define it very, very closely and accurately. So pre- and perinatal psychology explores and elucidates all aspects of early human development. And when I say early, I mean from conception, through infancy, based on genetics, neurobiology, psychology, and sociology. In that sense, it is a theory and practice that is unified, holistic, longitudinal, and contextual. And so I want to go with you over 8 basic concepts that underlie pre- and perinatal psychology as I understand it. This is not an official statement, but I guess it's about as official as it will get. Life is a continuum from conception to death. And in these parts, perhaps it goes beyond death. A person's life does not begin at birth, which is such a common misconception. There is a very large association in the United States which is called 0 to 6. And by 0 to 3? Okay. Obviously, I'm not involved with that. 0 to 3 and 0 to them is birth. And you and I know that that child that is born at the age of 9 months after conception is not 0. Secondly, and this is important, there is no separation between the mind and the body. They are one. Whatever changes occur in the mind will occur in the body, and vice versa. When a woman is pregnant, this principle of unity may be extended to her child in utero. Point number 3, how humans develop and how they learn depends on the dynamic interplay between nature, that is an individual's genetic endowment, and nurture, that is nutrition, surroundings, care, stimulation, and teaching that are provided or not provided, because a lack of these will also, and perhaps even more, affect the unborn child. Point number 4, the brain is sensitive to experience throughout life, but experience during the critical periods of prenatal and early postnatal life organizes the brain. And this quote is from Bruce Perry. I don't know whether you can see this or not. Bruce Perry is a very famous doctor in the United States, and I really love this sentence. Experience is the chief architect of the brain. Whatever the child experiences, it molds and shapes the brain. And so, brain is sensitive to experience throughout life, but experience during the early prenatal and postnatal life organizes the brain. Number 5, The prenatal and early postnatal stages determine, to a very large extent, our biological and psychological makeup. That is, medical conditions, and I will talk more about this in a few minutes, medical conditions, immune system, reactions to stress, as well as personality and ability to relate to others and to love and care about others. All of these take their first development in the prenatal period. Number 6, it follows that prenatal and early postnatal stages provide a unique and best opportunity for the primary prevention of biological and psychological disorders. In many places, children begin to act up, children begin to misbehave, in quotation marks, at the age of 2 or 3. And that is when the school system becomes interested in them. That's when parents perhaps take their child to a doctor or perhaps even a psychologist. And that often is referred to as primary prevention. That is not primary prevention. At best, that's secondary prevention because it is too late. The time to do primary prevention is prenatally. After that, some of the harm already has been done. Number 7, a secure relationship with 1 or 2 primary caregivers, preferably the parents of the child, maximizes the acquisition of emotional and cognitive skills. So essentially, this is about bonding and attachment. And we shall speak about that on Sunday morning when I will give a lecture focused just on bonding and attachment. And finally, if we can get to finally, come on, there we are. The mother, according to pre- and perinatal psychology principles, the mother is not just a passive receptacle or an incubator for a child's growth, which is how she was looked upon in the past, but rather an active initiator and participant. So, the question arises, how do we gain knowledge of the unborn child? What sort of windows into the womb can we detect? And so one of the ways, of course, is very simple, direct observation. And so I have a pointer. We have such things as optic fibers, amniocentesis, ultrasound, electroencephalogram in utero can be done, fetal electroencephalograms. What is least invasive is taking cortisol samples from the saliva. We can do CT scans, MRIs, and PET scans. And I'm sure you're all familiar with those. Just want to play you this. Do I just push on it and it will play? Okay. Audio. It's a 30-second video that was filmed in Italy. Oops, no. Yeah, okay. Make it as loud as possible. We'll play it again. Play it again. Okay, this is a baby in utero being filmed. That's it.
Basta! Mi hai stufato! Non ti sopporto più! Non urlare, smettila! Insomma, basta, basta!
Quando un bambino nasce, ha già un passato. Siete voi, non dimenticatelo, perché 9 mesi valgono una vita.
Okay, what that movie is trying to show you, it's kind of difficult in a large hallway like this. What it tries to show you is that the baby is lying in the womb, very calmly, relaxed, nice music is playing, and then suddenly the parents start arguing. And you can see how the baby reacts to it. So it is totally wrong to believe that babies in utero can't hear what is going on outside. They can hear it very well, and they react to it. This here is a PET scan, and you can see quite a difference between the left side and the right side. And so for those of you who have just come in, we are talking about how we can learn about the life of the unborn child. And these are some of the measures and some of the ways in which we can deduce, short of talking to the baby, what's really going on. Okay? So that was a PET scan, you have seen that. Now, neurobiology, of course, is another way of trying to find out what's going on. Research studies of various maternal and paternal environmental factors, such as nutrition, drugs, infections, pollution, etc. What effect do they have on the fetal brain anatomy, health, and personality? Research studies of various maternal and paternal emotional factors, such as stress, anxiety, depression. What effect do they have on brain anatomy, health, and personality? And we'll be talking about that in about half an hour. Neonatal physiology. So what can we learn about the physiology of the unborn children? For a long time, for example, it was believed that myelination, which is a fatty deposit on large nerve tracts, was not complete until about the age of 6. Well, actually, it's not complete until about 15 or 16, but nobody's going to tell you that a 15-year-old cannot hear or cannot act just because they don't have enough myelin tissue on their nerves. So that was a totally false belief, and it has been disproven many, many times. The main purpose of a myelin layer is to increase the speed of conduction. And when you have a tiny little baby, it doesn't need much speed. Fetal hearing has been looked into. Fetal thought has been looked into. And brain life has been looked into. For example, it's well known that babies by the age of 6 months after conception already have REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. And rapid eye movement sleep in adults, as I'm sure all of you know, is associated with the state of dreaming. So if a 6-month-old child is dreaming, obviously he is using his brain for more than just reacting to the outside world. You might also ask yourself, well, what is it that a 6-month-old child can be dreaming about? Well, lots of things. That child dreams the same way you and I dream about our daily occurrences. So the child hears noises. Also from about the 6 months on, the child can suck its thumb. It can play with the umbilical cord. There are lots of things going on in the womb. So those are the things that that child would be dreaming about. We assume, because nobody has told us. REM sleep, I've already mentioned. Fetal ultrasounds, memory and learning. Now that is very, very interesting here. I will tell you a story. Anthony de Casper, over there. Oops, what happened? Okay. Anthony de Casper, a psychologist in the United States, made a very, very interesting experiment. He took, 12 mothers and put them into one group and put another 12 mothers into another group. And then he had them record a story, a very similar story, but not the same story. So group A got one story and group B got another story. When the children were born, he hooked them up to something which he called the suckometer. Suckometer. And what that suckometer consisted of was an empty baby bottle, which was hooked up to a computer which measured the number of times the baby would suck on the empty baby bottle. So a base level was established for the sucking. And then they were played 2 songs. The song that their mother played to them, not the song, sorry, the story. That's the next experiment. The song is the next experiment. The suckometer played the story that the child heard over the last 3 months, and then they also played the story that it never had heard before, but read by his own mother, but it was a new story. Well, to make it a little bit faster, within about 2 hours, each child learned to suck the bottle in such a way that he or she received the familiar story as opposed to the unfamiliar story. So what this very clearly, and this experiment was repeated with songs and other stories, what this experiment very clearly shows is that children remember what happened to them during their stay in the womb, because they preferred the familiar story to the unfamiliar story. Okay. So, moving on. Maternal language shapes infants' melodies. So this takes the previous experiment a little bit further. Crying sounds of neonates are very much in sync with the way their mothers speak. So again, it shows how the child in utero is constantly listening and learning, listening and learning. Now, clinical psychology, psychiatry. Adults, once in a while, through such things as psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, are able to uncover long forgotten memories. But usually, in a size like this room here, where I would imagine there are about 300 people, usually among 300 people, there would be at least 2 or 3 who have had lifetime memories. The mic is not on? Oh, I thought that somebody said the mic was not on. So in a room like this, there probably are 2 or 3 people, 1 per 100, who have all their lives remembered something that happened to them, either at the time of birth or even pre-birth, just normally, without hypnotherapy, without drugs, without anything. But if you do use hypnotherapy, or certain drugs like LSD, psilocybin, very often people are able to regress back to very early stages in their development and accurately remember what happened to them. And I could talk about that all day, but we don't have all day, so we have to move on. I want to move on, and it doesn't want to move on. Can you push it to the next slide, please? Okay. So, just a very, very, very quick look at embryology and psychology, how we combine them. Here you have okay. This here shows you several spermatozoa, sperm cells, still in the testicle. These fine fibers that you see here they supply nutrition to each one of these sperm cells. Here is one sperm. As you can see, it is made up of 3 parts: the head, the body, and the tail. You don't see quite the tail. At the end of the tail, there is a little outpouching, a little tail. It's called a flagellum. And this little tail at the end propels the spermatozoa, the sperm cell, forward. What is very interesting is that in the head, which is where all the genetic material is contained, but right at the beginning of the head, there is a substance which sort of acts like a dynamo. And when it hits the ovum, which you will see in a second, it actually helps the sperm to get into the ovum. Well, let's have a look at that. So here you have approximately 300,000 spermatozoa swim upstream after sexual encounter. And you may very well ask, well, why do we need 300,000? All we need is one healthy sperm, right? Why do you need 300,000? Well, the reason that you need 300,000 because many of them are not normally developed. Some of them have 2 heads, some of them have 2 tails, and also very often, being male, they get lost. Here you have, I think I'm on safe grounds here because there are more women than men here. Here you have an ovum. The ovum is the only cell in the body that is actually visible to the naked eye, okay? It is as large as a dot on a printed page. It's the only visible cell. And like all eggs, it also contains yolk. This here is a yolk sac, and that helps to nourish the ovum after it gets fertilized. The ovum will die in 24 hours unless it is fertilized. And here you have the moment, you see, you only have very few sperm left behind. You no longer have 300,000, perhaps you have 20 or 30. And they're all trying to persuade the ovum to let them in. Please, please, let me in. And now, according to most recent research, and this is really very interesting from a psychological and perhaps even spiritual standpoint, recent research seems to, whoops, what happened? I have it here, but something's happened there. Okay, good. Recent research seems to indicate that the ovum, the walls of the ovum actually open and invite one of the sperm in. Now, we don't understand how that happens, but whereas in the past, it was thought that the sperm kind of drives itself into the ovum. Now it seems much more of a dance, okay? The ovum likes this particular sperm and invites it in. I can't say much more about that. It's something that we'll have to learn about in the future. And here you have the moment of conception, okay? This is the sperm driving right down into the ovum. Now, here we have a few hours after conception when already two cells have formed, one cell here and one cell here. And here we have, oops, sorry, and just one back. Okay, so a few hours later, the two cells become 4, and then the 4 become 8, the 8 becomes 16, and they grow very, very quickly, and this happens in the oviduct. Okay, and this stage, this is a 3-day-old human embryo, is called a morula, which is Latin for raspberry. Thank you. Who is the Latin student here? Okay, so the raspberry, here we come. Morula in the fallopian tube. After 3 days, there are 16 to 32 cells. 4 days, 60 to 70 cells. By 5 days, you have 150 cells, and then it's called a blastula. And this is the part that I wanted you to see. We are not going to go through the whole development. We are going to stop right here. These are called villi, chorionic villi. And villi, villus, comes from the Latin finger, finger-like. So these finger-like projections come from the baby, very, very important. This is part of the baby's skin. And it helps the baby take root, usually in the posterior wall of the uterus. And so that's usually after about 10 days. And then it embeds itself usually in the posterior wall of the uterus. Now, from a psychological standpoint, this is a very, very important stage in human development because I don't know what your experience has been, but certainly to me it came as a surprise, is that there are actually people, not many, but there are a few people who, without any knowledge of the biology here, are able to remember trying to, they will have dreams in which they try to hold on to a crumbling wall. And trying very often in life to get, let's say, to get into a club where they are not wanted, or to get into a school with great difficulty. And many of these sort of underlying, what one would call sort of underlying, what's the word I'm looking for? Scripts. It's almost like a film script that tells you what to do. And so one of the problems with chorionic villi and getting sort of a hold and embed yourself in the endometrium is that you see half of the genes of this baby, you can't really call it a baby, but it's the beginnings of a baby, this blastula. Half of the genes come from the father, and half come from the mother. But this is the mother's body. And so the mother's body immediately recognizes that there is a foreign substance here. And what do we do with a foreign substance? We try to extrude it. We try to get rid of it. So you have a huge immune response when this chorionic villi or villus tries to make its way into the uterine wall. So there is this battle between the new being that's trying to establish itself, which may carry over into the rest of that person's life, or they get killed. They get actually done with. And so we believe that perhaps as much as 50% of children conceived undergo a natural abortion because of this immune response. So I want to talk now about something totally different, because what we are trying to do here, what I'm trying to do here, is to give you an overview of some of the important research that has been done in the pre and perinatal area. So just a little bit of this and a little bit of that, because I only have 45 minutes, and I'm running out of that. Okay, so we'll talk about environmental toxins. And of course, the main one is stress. And stress really is a very, very negative force in our lives. And so you have stress, and you have other actions that happen around stress. Oops. Okay, so what you have, some of the causes of stress are birth complications, environmental toxins, general anxiety, depression, undernutrition, smoking, alcohol, and all kinds of other substances, and birth complications. Now, we shall not talk about all of them, but this is, generally speaking, what we are looking for in terms of stress. Now, what is very, very important is that chemicals that are contained lead, mercury, organophosphates, pesticides, phthalates, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. I will mention all of these in greater detail, but it is said that 98% of pregnant women have detectable levels of 62 chemicals in their bodies out of 163 screened. So imagine every pregnant woman in the United States is running around with at least 62 chemicals in her body, and very often much more. Now, there's no way that all those chemicals can be good for the baby, of course. Now, one of the most frequent chemicals that all of us drink is contained in these plastic bottles, and it's called bisphenol A. And pregnant women are being warned to avoid eating canned foods and foods microwaved in plastic containers, as well as drinking from water bottles left out in the sun. Because according to new findings from Stanford University, high levels of BPA, a chemical in many plastics and canned food linings, can increase the risk of miscarriage in women who are already prone to miscarriages or otherwise have trouble getting pregnant. Now, another common source of toxin is car pollution. It has been found that kids have lower IQ scores in areas where there is prenatal pollution. Here is a study from Manhattan in New York, a study of 249 women who wore backpack air monitors for 48 hours during the last few months of pregnancy in low-income neighborhoods in northern Manhattan and the South Bronx. They had varying levels of exposure to typical kinds of urban air pollution, mostly from car, bus, and truck exhaust. The study took into account other factors, such as exposure to secondhand smoke, mother's education. The major source of air pollution was traffic, particularly diesel. Along with other environmental harms, disadvantaged, low-income children are exposed to. It could help explain why they often do worse academically than children from wealthier families. Children growing up in poor families have many, many disadvantages, and we don't have time to go into that, but it is certainly something that you here are exposed to and perhaps can do something about. Low-income families usually speak less to their children. Instead of explaining things to them, you can't touch that because it will burn your fingers. They tend to give commands. Don't touch that. Do you know what's going to happen to you if you touch that? So a lot of warnings, a lot of commands instead of explanations. Also, 10 minutes left. My God, I just started. Oh my, okay. What are we going to do here? Okay, we're going to skip obviously something.
Please take your own time. That is what the audience says. Please continue.
Do you want more?
Yes. Yes.
That's good. All right. A little more time then. Okay. I want to talk about C-sections. No, we won't have time, really. Sorry. There, come on. It's just moving on its own. I'm not doing anything. I didn't know I had such magical fingers. Okay, C-section and babies, very, very important. Very few people know about this. The founding populations of microbes, which are found on C-section infants, are not those selected by hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution. Babies born by C-section harbor bacterial communities found on skin, because of course that's where they came out from, right? Babies born by C-section harbor bacterial communities found on skin, dominated by Staphylococcus and similar bacteria. Their gastrointestinal tracts were not colonized by their mother's lactobacilli, which is what would have happened if they are just born normally vaginally. Women in labor routinely also get antibiotics to ward off infection after C-section. Antibiotics are also used to prevent a serious infection in newborns caused by group B strep. Women of reproductive age carry bacteria, primarily lactobacilli, which make the vaginal canal more acidic. This environment provides a hardy defense against dangerous bacteria that are sensitive to acid. Whether the birth is fast or slow, the formerly germ-free baby soon comes into contact with the lactobacilli if it is born vaginally. The first fluids a baby sucks contains its mother's microbes. Once born, the baby instinctively reaches his mouth, now full of lactobacilli, towards his mother's nipple and begins to suck. So you see how nature has provided for a perfect kind of a transfer between the internal, the vagina, the uterus of the mother, and the outside world. We, obstetricians mostly, but some general practitioners also, interfere with that natural process. And so those people advise mothers, why can't you come in this weekend to the hospital? We'll put you to sleep, we'll do a C-section, you won't even know you had a baby. Not a good idea. You should know that you had a baby, and the baby should know you. Okay, you all know about antidepressants, SSRIs, and they may tend to raise obesity and diabetes risk. You know that more and more people in North America suffer of diabetes. And one of the causes may very well be the fact that a lot of women are depressed while they are pregnant, and they take antidepressants, and that goes into the bloodstream of the baby, and it creates diabetes and similar conditions. Okay, we're just going to skip that. Okay, sorry, just skipping some stuff here. Okay, so this is really the most important part. What is the effect of maternal stress on the fetal brain? This is very, very important, and I really appreciate having a little more time on this. There will be two slides that I will show you now. This one and the next one. If you forget everything that I have told you, please remember this. This is a cross-section of the brain. Neurons, as the baby grows, neurons start in the middle and from the neuronal tube, and then gradually they move up to what later becomes the cerebral hemispheres. Now, this is truly fascinating. Let's assume that you have a neuron which we shall call A. Neuron A is genetically programmed to end up here, which we shall call point B. If the baby's mother is exposed to a lot of stress, if she indulges in what is usually referred to as recreational drugs, such as opium or even marijuana, nicotine, any of those substances interfere with the travel itinerary of our little neuron that's supposed to go from A to B. And what happens is that instead of going from A to B, this neuron might only go up to here, to C. If you multiply that by thousands and thousands and thousands, you can see how this baby's brain may become totally miswired, okay? We have here not a software problem. We have a hardcore problem, okay? This is the way this child is being set up, and so it will be born already with an imperfect brain, okay? So that's the hardwiring. The hardwiring changes as a result of stress. And that is one of the major problems that we are facing today. So remember this. Many doctors, psychiatrists believe that autism, I'm sure you're familiar with this, is a developmental disconnection syndrome. There are either too many connections or too few connections between different parts of the brain. So again, this is hardwiring of the brain, and it's bad. Okay, I just want to go to the next stress level. Okay, as you know, this is just for those of you who don't have medical education. As you know, nerves don't actually touch, okay? A long nerve fiber, which is called an axon, comes close to another neuron, which is a dendrite, little hair-like projections, but they don't touch. There is a tiny little gap between the axon of one neuron and the dendrite of the other. And this very close area is called a synerge, okay? So I'm sure that many of you, perhaps all of you, have heard of Prozac, antidepressant. What Prozac does, you see, is that it gets into one of these areas where serotonin is supposed to be coming in. And it takes the place of serotonin in this little harbor, you might say, or a docking station in space. And so the serotonin, which collects here in the interval, in the open space between one nerve and another, is not absorbed by the next nerve. And so you have more serotonin in the brain. And one of the common hypotheses of depression, I don't totally subscribe to it, but it seems to apply in some cases, is that you don't have enough serotonin. There's a lack of serotonin in the brain. So Prozac increases the serotonin level in the brain by not allowing the serotonin to be absorbed as it usually would by some of the other neurons. This is what nerves actually look like. And okay, and we have two kinds of stress responses. We have a rapid response, which is the fight-flight response. Very, very old. Almost all the vertebrate animals have that. And what it does is it activates the sympathetic system, and it deactivates the parasympathetic system. So there will be inhibition of eating and sleeping. Then there is another response, which is the slower response, and that has to do with the HPA axis, and it increases cortisol. The HPA axis, yes. Okay, so what we have here is a cross-section of the brain, very, very quickly, but I just want you to, I just want you to see here, this is the hippocampus, we'll be talking about that. This is the hypothalamus. These are the cerebral hemispheres up here, okay? And here is the amygdala, which we shall also talk about in a second. And here's the cerebellum, which is sort of like a small brain in the back of the brain. Okay, next slide, please. All right, I told you there are two slides I want you to remember. This is the second one. This is incredibly important. What happens under stress is that if we look, this here is the adrenal gland. The adrenal gland is a small gland which sits on top of the kidneys. Very, very important gland. It produces, inside it produces epinephrine, and on the outside it produces corticoids. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay. In the United States, there is a very well-known professor, and he wrote a book which is called Why Giraffes Don't Get Ulcers. It's a very good book. And I will explain to you why giraffes don't get ulcers, but you and I do. When, for example, a person is crossing the street and suddenly a bus is coming right at them, they get scared, they start running, their blood pressure increases, the whole body goes into a panic mood, okay? And this is what happens. Here is a person walking over the street, suddenly they see a bus, okay? And so sensory thalamus, in other words, the seeing, the eye, the ears that are listening to the bus, perhaps even the nose that smells the fumes from the bus, all of those things impact the person. And so all these stimuli from the outside world go to the cortex, okay? So your higher brain centers, right? Also, it goes to the amygdala. And the amygdala then, which is a small area at the tip of the hippocampus, the amygdala sends signals. See the positive here? The amygdala sends signals to the paraventricular nuclei of the hypothalamus and tells the hypothalamus to produce CRF, which then goes to the pituitary, which then produces ACTH, which then goes to the adrenal cortex, and the adrenal cortex, as the word already says, cortex, outside, the adrenal cortex then produces cortisone. The cortisone goes back to the amygdala and it goes back to the hippocampus. When it hits the hippocampus says, oh, there is enough cortisone in the blood. Let's shut down this whole HPA stress response. And so it is sort of like a thermostat in your room. When it's set for 70 degrees, the moment the room becomes 70 degrees, the furnace stops functioning until it drops down to 68 or 65, and then it starts again. Well, it's a little bit like that. But since we are not giraffes, we worry. And when a woman is pregnant and she starts worrying, perhaps she doesn't want, perhaps she has some doubts about having the child. Perhaps she's thinking of giving it up for adoption. Perhaps she has just lost a job. Whatever it is, she starts worrying. And her worries go to the amygdala. And the amygdala receives signals which say, we are in a stress condition. What can I do? I have to tell the hypothalamus to produce more cortisone. So the reason giraffes don't get ulcers is because they don't worry. We humans worry a lot. And every time you worry, you start this stress axis and it goes into overdrive. And the problem is that if a woman worries throughout her pregnancy, oops. Can I just have the previous slide, previous to this? That one, yeah. When a woman worries, the stress response is a fight-flight response. And one of the major things it does is it takes the blood from inside the body, which would be like the intestines, and pushes them into the arms and the legs so that you could better run or fight. Makes perfect sense. But it also takes blood away from the uterus. And so for the time that this woman is stressed, her baby is not receiving the full amount of blood that it should. And therefore, that baby is going to be, if this continues, smaller and less developed than the baby of another woman who is not like that. Can I have 10 more minutes? Okay. Because there are a few things that I would really like to show you. So what are the effects of stress on the unborn? That's what I wanted to tell you about. Okay, there are about 17 different things that happen to the unborn when the mother is under stress. And so the first one is gene regulation. Genes are affected by stress, and you will be having lectures on genetics and epigenetics in the next few days. You'll learn more about that. But one of the things that happens is that you have gene regulation. And there will be cell migration to the wrong destination, formation of wrong circuits. I told you about that. Also, if there is too much nicotine or too much other factors, it will actually lead to the destruction of neurons, which then, of course, leads to the destruction of synapses. Next. Okay, you can see the difference. These are dendrites in one animal, and this is an animal that has been under stress. Not really too much stress, just some competition. And you can see how many fewer dendrites this particular animal has. Next, please. Okay, it decreases brain corticosteroid receptors, which means, often you hear the saying that stress builds character. Well, not true, not true. Stress makes you only weaker. And it makes you weaker on a very, very important area, which is the brain corticosteroid receptors. Okay, next please. Okay, this here is the corpus callosum. It's a bridge between the two sides of the brain. And I thought that you would be interested in this. Next. Because stress inhibits the development of the corpus callosum. And the corpus callosum is one of the major areas where there are anatomical differences between men and women. Women have larger corpus callosum, on the average, than men, which is one of the reasons that women actually, speaking anatomically, are different from men. Because of the larger corpus callosum, and I will show you in a minute that, because of the larger corpus callosum, women think with both sides of the brain. Oh, you know where this is going, do you? Men tend to think with only one part, usually the left brain. So men are more analytic. Men are more focused on narrow areas. Whereas a woman would take in the whole classroom here, I can only see my wife and nobody else. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, next. Okay, it increases, somebody asked about congenital malformation. Stress also increases congenital malformations. You get more cleft lip, cleft palate, and spina bifida. And this is brand new. The idea of telomeres is probably about 10, 15 years old. Telomeres really decide how fast your cells are aging. And the shorter the telomeres, the less time the cells have to survive. Next slide, please. Okay, health effects of maternal stress. We are just going to review that. Okay, next. So, okay, next, we'll just skip that. Skip. Okay, effect of prenatal stress on physical health. Excessive and sustained, and this is important. It's not when you have to run after a bus or run after a streetcar that causes negative stress. It has to be excessive and sustained for a long time, like several days or weeks, not a few minutes. So these are some of the things that happen, and we are all suffering because of this. We have low birth weight, prematurity, congenital malformations, SIDS, serotonin defects in the brain, heart disease, hypertension, cancer. All of these things can be caused by stress. Then, of course, you have obesity, osteoporosis, type 2 diabetes, inhibition of the immune system, very, very serious, decreased ability to deal with stress, premature aging. We have already mentioned that. Next, please. Oh, exhaustion of the adrenals, and this can very often lead to overcharged immune system, increases congenital malformations. Okay, let's go to the end, almost to the end, okay? Keep going to, let's go to before, okay, mode of birth and suicide. We'll end on a positive note. Next, okay, so this is very interesting. This research came from Sweden, and it was by Bertil Jakobsson from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden. And he found that those who asphyxiated themselves by hanging, drowning, or gas poisoning were 4 times more likely than controls to have suffered oxygen deprivation at birth. Interesting, isn't it? Mechanical means of suicide related to forceps delivery. And drug addiction related to mothers receiving opiates, barbiturates, or chloroform during delivery. So whatever happens to you at an early stage in more than one way affects you for the rest of your life. This is the important idea that I would like you to take with you after this. Next. Okay, so in summary, points to remember. Psychological stress during pregnancy produces lasting, undesirable changes in both mothers and their children. The cumulative impact, so it's not just one thing, but one thing after another. The cumulative impact of health risks from modest dysregulations, they don't have to be huge, in multiple systems can be substantial, even if they individually have minimal and insignificant health effects. In the brain, hardware and software is constantly changing as a result of the dynamic interaction between genes and the environment. For a long time, people thought that your destiny was in your genes. Today, we know much, much better. It's in the genes which are expressed at any one time. In other words, the ones that are vital and working. And 4, experience changes the organization and function of the brain. Human connections create neural connections from which the mind emerges. Thank you.
I think the big round of applause for excellent presentation. And I know that we couldn't manage with the time, and we should have given a little more time. I apologize for that. We are looking forward in future to hear a lot of good things from you. And from now, hardware, we are going to the software. It just reminds me of a poem by Khalil Gibran and your children. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts. You may have their bodies, but not their souls. For their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow. With these beautiful words of Khalil Gibran, we are moving for the next session, that is on Garbha Sanskar, by another stalwart. We are proud that we are Indians, and we have people like Dr. Vijay Parker. Yes, that's the spirit. 2 minutes. Oh, chalo. In the meantime, I'll just give a brief introduction of such a highly intellectual personality. Dr. Vijay Parker is one of the most acclaimed and internationally acknowledged scientists and IT leaders of India. He is presently the Chancellor of Nalanda University. Prior to Nalanda responsibility, he was Chairman of Board of Governors of IIT Delhi from 2012 to 2017. He is best known as architect of India's national initiative in supercomputing, where he led the development of India's first supercomputer, Param 1990, if you remember. You're proud. And to add a note to this, under the technology denial regime, means we were denied of the technology, but we proved that we can do it, and we did it. That's under leadership of Dr. Vijay Parker. We are proud. Currently, he's steering the national supercomputing mission of developing Excel architectural supercomputing for India. Dr. Bhatkar is also widely known for bringing ICT to the masses through a wide range of path-breaking initiatives, such as celebrated GIST multilingual technology covering India's 22 official languages with 10 diverse scripts that has dissolved the language barriers on the computers once for all. MKCL's computer literacy program that made a world mark by creating 10 million computer literates within a decade. By itself, it is a big achievement. We crossed all the language barriers. Education to Home initiative for bringing benefits of ICT to school education. In 1980s, Dr. Bhatkar's substantially contributed to the ushering of electronic revolution in India. He is also credited with the creation of several national research labs and institutions, notably among them being CDAC, ERNDC, Trivandrum, IIT MK, Technopark, MKCL, ETH Research Lab, and Multiversity. Simultaneously, he has mentored several innovation-based startups. Dr. Bhatkar has served as a member of the Scientific Advisory Committee to the Prime Minister of India, member of Governing Council of CSIR, and member of IT Task Force constituted by Prime Minister in 1998. He is a Life Fellow of IEEE, USA, Fellow of ASCM, USA based. Besides being Fellow of CSI, INE, ITT, NASI, MASC, and so many other institutions worldwide, recognized worldwide. He has served as a chairman of e-governance committee to Maharashtra and Goa also, from where I come from. Dr. Bhatkar has authorized and edited over 12 books and 80 technical and research papers and addressed several university convocations, international and national conferences, conventions, and public functions also. His groundbreaking articulations have widely covered by both print and broadcast in media. It's a privilege. Dr. Bhatkar was conferred with Krishi Bharat Ratna Award in 2017, Padma Bhushan Award in 2015, Padma Shri Award in 2000, and Maharashtra Bhushan Award in 1919 and 2000. He is a recipient of prestigious Jindal Prize for 2012 for Science and Technology in the Service of Society. And he was conferred with Sant Jnaneshwar World Peace Prize. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to this stalwart. I salute you, sir, on behalf of all the audiences. And I know that we have a shortage of time, but you can take around 30 minutes. 30 minutes.
Take 30 minutes.
And the title is Garbha Sanskar.
Before I start speaking, on behalf of all of us, I think let's once again applaud the keynote speaker, Thomas Bernie. Tremendous learning. I think, see, I'm an engineer. I'm a computer engineer, this kind of things. And I always, I think, express that in today's education, particularly the education, technical education, we suffer from that we are never introduced to biology. This separation of biology and engineering is one of the greatest, I think, damage which we have done to our learning.
when such a presentation like Thomas Verney's presentation was being made, many of the terms we don't understand. Similarly, I think, and at the same time, this is the century of biology. Unless you understand biology, is the way you will hardly understand the world. Of course, similarly, I see that the doctors are not introduced to engineering. If you see that all the time they are doing engineering. Look at any doctor, I think they are not introduced to engineering concept. They use computers more than the computer engineers. So I think this correction we have to introduce in our education. When I was looking at this issue, I really came for what Professor Thomas Verney was really speaking. That I always believed that there is something to be understood by this whole process of mothering a child. How important, what kind of impressions we are carrying to the child and next generation. In Indian situation, you see that kind of thing, the young girl is married in a new family, she goes there kind of thing. And a phenomenon, what is called phenomena, most Indian girls and women would experience would be that they are not treated well in the family. The mother-in-law doesn't know that she is actually harming her next generation. Now, this education is critical. I'm talking common sense here, really, but it's not given to us. That for the want of dowry, for other things, for the stress between two families, husband and wife, what stress the mother and your next generation, the child goes through. No, that's why I think your lecture, I would say that kind of thing must be made, I think, broadcasted really. This kind of thing, how important it is. I think we have to educate our husbands to be, we have to educate our mother-in-laws to be, we have to educate our families really. That's why in Indian civilizational concept, you see, the traditional concept or Vedic concept, the human birth, of course, in all cultures and all civilizations was really celebrated. Mothers to be was to be celebrated, and she is celebrated. The child is celebrated, arrival. There are sanskars done for the mother at that time. This one, but we have forgotten that. For the want of that survival or the economic survival or whatever it is kind of thing. So I think it has been extremely most important takeaway from this, for me, from this conference or workshop or this international conference is this. This message must be carried through. I am working on a different aspect. My consideration has been I am very interested in knowing what you call as hardware software aspect, being a computer scientist. What will be the future generation computing structures? They have been very different now. Today, the computing structure which I see, the biggest advancement is our smartphone. Computers were actually designed, starting from Alan Turing, computers were actually designed in the image of man. If we really look at it, the architecture has been completely inspired by human architecture. But it has been abstracted very differently. One thing which I observed was that computers can do anything that humans can do if they understand what is to be done. If they understand what is to be done, they understand the data that comes to it is structure, then humans can do, I think computers can do anything what you can imagine. That's why I ask often the question that is there any application of computers which humans can not do? I'm asking the question another way. Is there anything what you are saying that where computers cannot be applied? You'll be surprised you think that you will find whatever humans can do, computers can do better. Also, many ways. This must be answered differently. This one. the mind, when the first microprocessor was invented at Intel, Tedhoff, this one, when he created that chip, the whole computer on a chip, that was called microprocessor, that was one turning point. That was one major turning point in human evolution, I believe. This one. But now, whatever humans could do, this chip could simulate, program, this one, which is affordable, which is extremely affordable, and which will grow more and more, which would grow more and more powerful as the times will go. The computing power of chips have doubled almost like every 18 months, at the same cost. Today, the smartphone that I carry, which has many chips, has computing power equivalent to the supercomputers which we designed in the 90s. The computing power is so large that some people are wondering that will we exceed the entire intelligence of humans on the planet as the century turns. In 2020, I think we expected around 2050. It happen at the end of the century, perhaps, this one. But this is a tremendous journey which we are carrying with us. I have one challenge with me in this context of understanding human brain. How are we able to simulate everything what humans think in terms of two symbols? Just two symbols abstraction is I think most fascinating thing humans came about with the digitization concept. And I think we credit it to Alan Turing. Earlier we credited it to Bool's mathematics. That's one. And also in the Indian context, there is a very interesting context which I will share with you. But computing has given us a language that everything in the world, in the universe, as we perceive and cognate, can be expressed with only two symbols. And we call it 0 and 1, whatever it is. But it's not 0 and 1. It is just like 0 and non-zero. It is shunya and ashunya. It is actually shunya. And to understand that, we have to get into the context of that into a ashunya, that which is not zero. This one. This concept has allowed us to explain not only numbers, but also the scripts, colors, images, sounds, and everything. Anything that you can imagine can be expressed with this symbol and its non-existence, non-zero. It is why I think anything computers are able to simulate in this language. And you can program this language, and there are ways of programming and different ways of programming this language. I was trying to discover who was the first architect of the computer. Of course, the name comes as Alan Turing, which I think in the World War II, I think helped, Alice to win the war. Alan Turing made a statement that anything that you are able to express, computers will be able to simulate. So you'll be able to program. Anything, if you are able to express it, it will be possible to program. So your mind is programmable. Whatever comes to your mind, if you are able to express that, what is that, understand, represent, then that computers will be able to do. Many philosophers contested this thing, but this is what I'm seeing happening to all of them. Why is it relevant, this one, that then can computers really simulate the entire brain itself? There is a project going on that reverse engineering the brain, what you talked about, reverse engineering the brain, can it be done? There of course through hardware and also through software. There is a duality, hardware-software duality. Whatever can be done in hardware can also be done in software. This one. It's a dual of that kind of thing. Similarly, conversely, whatever can be done by software can be realized in hardware. What I want to say is, I have some problem. Today, we are working on systems which I'm saying in very different context. Actually, context is very different in terms of Garbha Sanskar. I'm just trying to see that how I am able to change the functionality of my hardware sitting in my pocket by just being connected wirelessly or through wired manner through a cloud which I don't know. I can change the function. I can change the function of my system by downloading any apps, which I don't know wherever it is existing. This was unimaginable some time back, that I can change the function of a system which I will be carrying by just downloading it from some cloud, something which I did not know where it exists. This one. This is the way I think when we talk about where from, you ask the question, where from the child takes birth? How does take its form? That is the question. I'm looking at it differently. I'm having right now some problem because of this one. And I think I will have to take a break. Last time also had happened to me. I will have to take a break now. This one. But I wanted to speak to you that how important is really this Garbha Sanskar idea is that, how it can be changed, how it can be transformed into something different, and there is so much to be learned. So Manashakti has done some great thing by doing, it's the only organization I think which is doing research on mind so deeply, consistently, coherently, from inspired by Swami Vijnanananda. Now this kind of thing, when I was architecting what should be the next generation courses to be introduced to our people, and I think one of the things which we have come across is that the next thing is we are going to really learn is, I think we must learn, is the nature of mind itself, and how our mind will change, and it can create of course anything very creative. What is the nature of mind? How it can be stimulated on computers, and how the mind, the connection between mind and machine will happen. Today, this connection I think playing a very important role. We are seeing that kind of thing. We are understanding now how the brain is functioning, what happens in the brain as our thoughts, and those thoughts can be then translated into the signals which can be recognized. It is now possible to really almost think something, and suppose you want to open a Google, search for something in Google and ask, just think like that, and that can be programmed, so your page will open, and this kind of thing will talk. This one. So the brain-computer interfaces have come a long way. We will not require any programming to be done like this, and your thoughts will be able to really do that automatically with the machines. There are so many developments like that which would be happening. What I wanted to really talk to you was a different topic which I'm not able to reach out immediately. So I think you have to forgive me. I'm having some problem right now, and I will take off at this stage and share with you some other time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. So, once again, I think for all the attempts and despite of his physical problems, so he has agreed and consented to be over here with us. A big round of applause for that human touch, your appreciation, your join in this organization. By itself, it is our moral strength, and it is a blessings for all of us. And I look forward with that attitude at this juncture. So often, what is the mind that matters, not the matter always matters. So with this note, I think we are going to start sharp at 11. So you can take a break, enjoy this beautiful break, make new friends. We want you to learn with an open mindset and share the knowledge as wisdom. Thank you very much for your kind cooperation. And our announcement, another important announcement, that this program is being live telecasted on our YouTube screen. Just 2 minutes, just hold on for 2 minutes, because there are some important announcements. One is that this program is being telecasted live. So I think this site, you can please give the link on the screen, please. All your friends, relatives, or those who are not here at present physically can watch this program, can download this program, can be the part of this program. Correct? And thanks to our technology team. I think they also deserve a big round of applause. These are the world of changing mindset, and where physically every time it may not be possible to be everywhere. So this omnipresent technology has done a lot of miracles for us. Oh. Another most important announcement. Inauguration ceremony, that the formal inauguration ceremony will be in the Pandal, that is the nearby. We have created a special venue, very aesthetically designed, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy this session. After the inauguration session, we are going to come back to the same auditorium, and all our instructions, obligations, humble requests will continue as they were in past. Thank you.
सगळ्यांचं स्वागत करते. आपल्याकडे 3 दिवस गर्भसंस्कार या विषयावर आंतरराष्ट्रीय परिषद, मनशक्ती प्रयोग केंद्र आणि अपाह यांच्या संयुक्त विद्यमाने होत आहे. या परिषदेसाठी जगभरातील 7 देशांमधून विविध परदेशी पाहुणे आपल्या इथे सहभागी झालेले आहेत आणि या विविध पाहुणे नमस्कार. मनशक्तीच्या चॅनलमध्ये मी अमृता पराडकर आपल्या सगळ्यांचं स्वागत करते. आपल्याकडे 3 दिवस गर्भसंस्कार या विषयावर आंतरराष्ट्रीय परिषद, मनशक्ती प्रयोग केंद्र आणि अपाह यांच्या संयुक्त विद्यमाने होत आहे. या परिषदेसाठी जगभरातील 7 देशांमधून विविध परदेशी पाहुणे आपल्या इथे सहभागी झालेले आहेत आणि या विविध पाहुणे 3 दिवस ह्याच्यामध्ये प्रेझेंटेशन्स तसंच सहभाग हे घेणार आहेत. त्यापैकीच आपल्यासोबत आत्ता आहेत ब्राझीलच्या अनिप या संस्थेच्या व्हाईस प्रेसिडेंट लॉरा अपलिंगर. त्यांच्यासोबत आत्ता आपण काही वेळ गप्पा मारणार आहोत. त्यांचा अगदी थोडक्यात परिचय करून द्यायचा तर अनिप ही संस्था ब्राझील USA मध्ये कार्यरत आहे आणि प्रीनेटल सायकोलॉजी या विषयावर ती काम करत आहे. आता लॉरांशी आपण गप्पा मारणार आहोत. वेलकम लॉरा टू मनशक्ती. नमस्ते.
नमस्कार. नमस्ते.
So to start with, can you just tell us a brief about yourself and your work in prenatal psychology?
Yes, it's a work that started over 40 years ago, and recently, since 2010, in Brazil, I belong to this association, a national association of prenatal education that pertains to a world association, this OMAEP. And this association wants strictly to disseminate the idea that what happens to us in the womb is gained as information for the rest of our lives and how to understand life, how to behave. It's an implicit memory, not explicit, but it's very potent. I often equate pregnancy to the soundtrack for our life. Violent pregnancy, filled with anguish, will make us recognize those moments of violence and anguish later on in life as normal. A restful, joyous pregnancy will make us tend towards joy later on in life. A pregnancy that has elevated thoughts and nobility will prepare us somehow to recognize the importance of spirituality. Thus is the power of a pregnant mother. This is new for science, and it's very old for traditions. This is why I'm so happy to be here at the Manashakti conference.
Yeah, thank you, Lara. I just like to know about what inspired you to be here in Manashakti for this conference.
Yes. Oh, many things inspired me. The logo is magnificent. It's a dance in DNA. But I met Gajanan Kalkar in 1999 in San Francisco at an APA conference. I had been in their board of directors for 12 years. I had just moved to Europe, but in 1999 I was there at the conference. And when he told us about the work done for hundreds of people throughout, and now thousands and thousands throughout India, reminding them of the importance of pregnancy, I thought this was magnificent. I include his work in many of my talks, hoping that other nations will wake up for that. And when I learned that APA and Manashakti were doing a joint conference, I could not be here.
That's great. And I would like to know more about what from this conference you will take forward, whether this conference will put kind of milestones for the society.
Yeah. I am not a therapist. I was trained as an experimental psychologist, but I have dedicated my life since the mid-70s as a proponent of life in the womb. So I want politicians, I want heads of state, I want professionals overall, and the public in general to know about this. This knowledge does not pertain to a few of us. When I was pregnant, I realized that it was a really privileged pregnancy just because I knew all of this. That belongs to the human race. So I want every teenager, I want every couple, I want every grandparent's couple to know of the importance of the well-being of a pregnant mother. You know, the reverse of stress is joy. So joyous pregnancies with centers like Manashakti, every country can have theirs. They're in every tradition, there are references to the power of a pregnant woman. As far as birthing civilizations, and in almost every country, programs for children start at birth. Birth is too late. And here at Manashakti, you understand that. So what I'm bringing from this conference is the confirmation that somewhere on earth, this question is being addressed the correct way for everybody to know, accessible to everyone in the public, from the very rich to the very poor. What is nature expecting from us neurophysiologically, and what is spirit expecting from us to give our children still in prenatal life. So you will be a great example that I cherish, and I'm eager to hear of the speakers at the conference.
That's so great. It's very pleasing for us to know that from you. because the conditions in Brazil and India might vary, but your thought on this is very enlightening for many of us.
Thank you. I have this example in Greece. Since 2008, every couple who gets married receives, together with a marriage certificate, this little booklet, 10 Golden Rules for Future Parents. There's a simple ideas about the power of pregnancy. And it was written by a judge, an important judge, administrative judge, Ioana Mari. And it has been so successful since 2008. Maternities want it, churches want it, like another national way of dealing with the power of pregnancy.
And Laura, we are blessed that you are going to present in the conference. So I would like to briefly tell us what is your presentation about the topic in brief.
So in Brazil, step by step, Brazil is a continental country. It's 3 times bigger than India. So we can't be everywhere at the same time. But we have the ANEP over there. We have a training course that goes for 1.5 years, 1 weekend per month, where we impart most of the knowledge from epigenetics to what happens in embryology, what happens during breastfeeding, what happens during birth, during conception. And we call in many professionals. And there's usually every class has 25, 30 people. It's still small. But those are professionals from many parts of Brazil. And they are able, it's very interactive, interdisciplinary, sometimes transdisciplinary. And it's our way to bring forth these ideas and ideals. Carla Machado, another speaker of this conference, and myself will also talk about the seminar we give, which is then 1.5 days, a kind of a trailer of the training course. It goes from art to politics to science to mystical aspects. Because human beings, we know so much, and we think we don't know. But we have proofs and proofs and proofs in anthropology, in science, in psychology, in philosophy. It's about time to make it for the whole planet accessible. That's what we're doing in Brazil, that we will present the step-by-step of our training course.
That's so good. And we all are looking forward for your presentations. Definitely, it will give us a very enlightening thoughts on the presentation on prenatal psychology. So I just wanted to know about how you are finding being in India and especially in Manashakti.
Well, India is a mother country for many, so many incarnations we must have spent here. But Manashakti was a dream of mine. I had been near Rishikesh in Dehradun at the farm of Vandana Shiva, an extraordinary enterprise that she has there at Navdanya about real agriculture. Here is where we cultivate babies at Manashakti. So it's my second time in India. I love the smells, I love the food, I love the colors, I love the sky. So the smile of all of you. A brother of mine is now a diplomat at Mumbai from Brazil. And he's in his late 50s. He told me, whenever I'm really angry and having a tantrum, I meet these Indian faces smiling at me, ready to understand me. People here are so meek, so kind. I've never seen that. So this is an image that you Indians have abroad. You're kind and your smile means a lot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
It means a lot to us also to get this kind of compliment from you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
But thank you for receiving this conference here.
Yeah.
Thank you for daring, showing it to the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for this interview conversation with us, because it will be definitely helpful for all of us to get some kind of insights from you. Thank you so much, Laura.
Wonderful. Let's keep in touch.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Manashakti Research Center, in collaboration with APHA, USA, is organizing 3-day international conference on prenatal education, Garbha Sanskar. First time in India, we are having this conference, and lot many dignitaries all across the world are participating in this conference. Manashakti Research Center, in collaboration with APHA, USA, is organizing 3-day international conference on prenatal education, Garbha Sanskar. First time in India, we are having this conference, and lot many dignitaries all across the world are participating in this conference. Today in our studio, we have Barbara Daker, and there is Upendra Joshi from Manashakti Research Center along with me, and we are going to have a conversation with Barbara.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us come to India. It was so exciting to think that the world their eyes are opening to the importance of the prenatal period. I have been a childbirth educator for over 50 years. And as I worked through the years, I would collect information on what works and what doesn't work. And I taught different types of childbirth. And then I found hypnobirthing. And hypnobirthing would teach the parents to love the baby in the womb and talk to the baby and sing to the baby and really bring the parents into loving the baby in the womb. And I went, what? All these years I've been teaching other classes and no one ever mentioned that. We knew the last trimester that they could hear, but basically babies can hear at 4 months old. Yep. So we need to be teaching our parents much earlier. So that's when I started to get involved with the prenatal bonding, because our parents do not know how important it is. And then I had the experience of being trained by a German psychiatrist. There's 12 of us in the United States, and we spend close to 30 weeks of the 40 weeks of the pregnancy with the mother. And in doing this work, you do an intense history on the mother that's pregnant, plus how the mother was born herself and what the pregnancy was like with her. So we go back generations of history because of the subconscious knows the history behind that mother, and it makes a difference on what sort of a mother she's going to be. And so it's just, this field has opened up to the whole world now. We're in Brazil, we're in England, we're in Turkey, we're in Hungary, Slovenia. They're just all over the world. People are understanding that our babies' brains are being affected by so much stress that our mothers are under these days. So our job is to help the mothers understand how they can become empowered. And that's fathers too. Very, very important that the father is included. So we want to welcome our babies to our wombs. When that baby is welcomed into the womb, then that baby feels safe, can grow, put their energy into growth and not fear. And the outcomes are the babies will mentally and physically be healthier, and the pregnancy is much safer and healthier. So our work is critically important for other people to understand how important it is. And in India, you have 200 obstetricians that are listening. We need this also in our own countries. Because we will have healthy births, healthy babies, and peace.
Yes, great.
Yeah.
That was really a wonderful introduction of the work that you have been doing for so many years. I would like to ask what inspired you to come over here and attend this seminar, this conference, I would say.
Well, Gajanan has been coming to the APA conferences for years and years and years.
Right.
And I had the pleasure of meeting him before. And he's so full of love and so optimistic.
Right, yeah.
And he asked APA, would you come and be part of a conference in India?
Yeah.
And I am membership chair of APA, and I thought, I've never been to India, I'll go.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And since we have come, we have been so well treated.
Okay.
The Indian people have been so generous and so kind, and their hearts just wide open.
Yeah.
So much support, so much love. It's an honor. I'm truly honored to be here.
Same here, Barbara.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when we were talking about the mother and child's bond, even I think Dr. Verini has made a comment about it, like unhappy moms produce stupid babies.
Yeah.
So I think when you were giving about the brief about that, I was just recollecting in the back of my mind, like that connection also. So even we do have a kind of prayer for welcoming a child. So I think that is very interesting and very connected. Like the same kind of work we are having in different parts of the world.
Absolutely.
So that's very
we're doing it a different way,
Yes.
and but we're doing the same thing.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
right.
So we need to come together.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You were mentioning about an interesting movie sometime back. Can you tell us more about that?
In Utero is the name of it, and Stephen Gyllenhaal and his wife put together the movie so that he wanted to wake up society to realize babies experience trauma in the womb.
Oh, okay.
And babies are affected by the environment around the parents.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so they went all over the world to interview. Dr. Verni's in it, Gabor Mate's in it, all these wonderful people, and some of the basic psychoanalysts from Germany and over in Europe. Right. And they interviewed them. and a lot of people were alarmed when they saw the movie because it brought things forward. They were triggered by their own experiences.
Yes.
And your experiences in the womb, your birthing, and the few years afterwards, you can go through your whole adulthood and never succeeding in life and never understanding why.
Right. Yeah.
So this new psychology, it's ancient, right?
Yes,
that's why we're here.
Absolutely, yes.
It's ancient history.
Yes.
We are bringing it forward
Yes.
and realizing, okay, we need to be doing this work,
Yes.
singing, loving,
Yeah.
all the techniques that we can connect with this baby.
Yes.
Babies feel touched in 8 weeks.
Yes.
And it
Even
feels
in
so...
our culture, there is a ceremony. We call it as a baby shower.
Yeah.
So where that mother is felicitated, greeted. We do have some singers, songs have been sing.
Yeah.
So the same kind of things are being, so just to keep her happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that the growth of that fetus will be normal and good, healthy.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And I have to make a very good,
Yeah.
important comment that you should never argue with a woman that's pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay? She should always win the argument. And then we'll have happy babies.
I think otherwise also.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you were saying like the things which fascinated and inspired you to visit India are like you have been associated with Apaha and you know about Manashakti. But I would like to know more about what exactly you are liking about Manashakti, what you are deriving it from, like how you are taking it along with you.
Well, actually, it's fascinating because I believe that we should have this education in the school system. And Manashakti is actually accomplishing that.
Yeah.
And you're bringing in these young children to have them understand the universe, understand how special caring and compassion and giving. These children, they won't be out there murdering people. They're learning emotional love, compassion, sharing, serving the community. And we will have a much healthier society when all children can have the ability to learn and be part of this compassion and peace and love and sharing and giving. We will be a much happier society. Yes.
So I guess it's kind of from nation to it's a world building kind of process that we are indulging in.
Yes. Because we want our children to be healthy. We want them to respect their elders. We want them to open their minds and not just play video games all the time. So I've been amazed what you're doing with the young children in these programs.
Thank you.
So we'll be able to take that home and work a little bit harder how we can get that into schools.
That's good.
Because I don't know of any school in the United States that's anything like the programs that you're doing.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, overall about your stay over here in Manashakti, how you are finding it? Is it a good stay?
The food is great. Everybody has just been so welcoming. People of all different lifestyles, from physicians to drivers to everyone. Their hearts are pure and they're full of love. You're just so welcoming. It's been wonderful. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be here.
We are honored as well.
And tomorrow we are starting with our conference. So before that, do you want to give a kind of message for this conference?
For this conference, the speakers have the science to bring together what we have been saying, ancient wisdom, and then the studies from Dr. Verney and Dr. Chamberlain with pre and perinatal psychology and health. Now, with all of these speakers that are PhDs, obstetricians, scientists, psychologists, they're all going to be speaking on the scientific proof that the work that we're doing, we need to be doing it, and it's real. So that's why I'm so excited to hear. And one of your speakers is a doctor that we see in United States TV. Sanjay Gupta. And he's an advisor, on the news things. So I hope that he brings this onto the news, the station that he works, and mentions this work should come to the United States.
So it's definitely going to be an ancient and modern sciences
Absolutely.
blend,
Coming
blend.
together.
Yes.
Coming together.
Yeah, definitely.
Epigenetics, biology, wonderful. And love.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely.
So science and emotions coming together.
Absolutely right. Yes, it's wonderful.
So thank you so much for being here in our video. Thank you, Barbara. And once again, from Manashakti Research Center, I'll give many best wishes for work that Barbara is doing at her place. So thank you once again for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
नमस्कार, मी मयूर चंदने. मनशक्तीच्या चॅनलमध्ये आपलं सगळ्यांचं स्वागत. मागल्या भागात आपण गर्भसंस्कार या विषयाबद्दल आपण बोललेलो होतो. आत्ताच्या ह्या भागामध्ये आंतरराष्ट्रीय पातळीवरची कॉन्फरन्स होऊ घातलेली आहे, त्याच्याबद्दल आपण आत्ता बोलणार आहोत. त्यासाठी आमंत्रित केलेलं आहे मनशक्तीचे संशोधन विभाग प्रमुख श्री गजानन केळकर आणि प्रज्ञाताई केळकर, त्यासुद्धा यंत्रचाचणी विभाग प्रमुख आहेत. केळकरांना विचारायचं आहे की ही जी गर्भसंस्कार ही जी संकल्पना आहे त्याची आत्ताच्या जीवनामध्ये आवश्यकता काय आहे?
गर्भसंस्कार संकल्पनेची आत्ताच्या जीवनात प्रकर्षाने आवश्यकता आहे आता असं लक्षात आलेलं आहे. याचं कारण असं आहे की रोज आपण जे पेपरमध्ये वाचतो, वेगवेगळ्या बातम्या वाचतो आणि त्या मनाला पटत नाहीत की माणूस असा कसा वागू शकतो. म्हणजे पशुसारखा सुद्धा म्हणता येत नाही, कारण पशु असं वागत नाहीत जशी माणसं वागतात.